I think I'm on. I'm on. We're on. We are on. How you wonderful people doing today? I hope you guys are doing great. I hope everyone had a good weekend. Nostalgic for the heat map. Nice. Omni, you seen it gone now? I think it's gone. I'm gonna be right there. I like that we're both typing using the Fractal Grove account, so that wasn't me this time. I'm actually here. Okay, it is gone. All right, cool. Perfect. All right, I just wanted to figure out how to toggle it. How the fuck do I get it to come back? Oh my god, how do I get it to come back? All right, I don't know how to get it to come back. We'll figure it the fuck out. Don't worry, Strava. We're going to talk about that. It was fun trying to figure out which one of you were using the account. Yeah. It's very confusing. Sorry about that. I was typing on it mostly, and then Tony was like, I got to go, do something real quick. I'll be right back. So he was typing on it. So, so lots of game industry news, this last week. I think we can start with a bit of Schadenfreude, or however you pronounce that in German. For me, knowing that Polygon is RIP Bozo is fantastic. I'm hoping that we see the same thing happen with like Kotaku. That would be great. I don't have a huge appreciation for these games journalism websites. Yes, sir. Polygon was purchased by a corporation that owns several gaming news outlets and then immediately shuttered, and like 300 to 400 people lost their jobs. Yep. They got bought by some, corpo conglomerate for like news sites. So that makes me happy. Only because I just don't enjoy gaming journalism. I think it's funny because I end up doing a little bit of that myself, talking about like what's going on in the industry, but there's always games journalism has been like pretty rotten for a while. It's mostly paid spots. We've talked about this. When you do an interview or a review for your new game or something like that, there's always a disclosure agreement, what they're going to talk about, how they talk about it. I don't know. I just don't see it as a very positive relationship. It kind of hasn't been for a long time. I think the death of that was probably the death of games journalism being about video games, and like celebrating the culture and just kind of like understanding and providing news and stuff like that has since shifted to a very corporate marketing type of a thing. And the death of the old style and the birth of the new style, which I don't care for, was all related to like G4 TV. When G4 like spun up and they started making a bunch of different games media shows and all these other things, like, Attack of the Show and the one with Morgan and Adam, that one was pretty good. X-Play, I think is what it was called. X-Play was pretty good. X-Play had been around for a very long time, but it sucks when people lose jobs for sure. I think that's it. It makes life really, really hard. Have I told you guys my stories about meeting Adam Sessler? Because I've met him a couple times in life, and it's always been really funny. I can tell you guys about the very first time I met him. He was thoroughly unimpressed with me, and it was really fucking funny. It was before I was working in the game industry. Losing jobs in this market really sucks. Yeah, so this is the hard part for me. I've had many, 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 many jobs. I've changed careers more than once in my life, full-on changed careers. I wasn't always a game designer. I was a network engineer. I went to school for 2D and 3D animation. So I was a game artist or a digital artist. I've gotten jobs being a digital artist. This is 15, 20 years ago at this point. So while it sucks, we don't live in a time where there's not very many companies, especially in the United States, that will hire someone for life. And if you stay loyal to the company, they'll give you a pension and you have a retirement plan and all this. That doesn't really exist anymore. So if you're aware of that, you need to always be prepared to lose your job, regardless of what industry you're in. So for me, of course, I'm empathetic. I'm a human being. I'm, subject to the plight of the human experience. It's really tough when things get, tossed into disarray and you're trying to figure out how to pay your bills and stuff like that. But if you plan carefully for it and know that that's a likely outcome, like, life is a little bit easier. So I think people just need to be prepared for that and be aware of it. You can't ever count on a job being forever. Yo, what's up, Ox? How you doing, dude? Good seeing you, man. Ox coming through. Ox, I'm a streamer now. Not really, but yeah, dude. So this is the Fractal Grove stream. This is the thing we do. We started Game Studio a couple of years ago, and we started streaming we've been doing this for a little over a year now, going on a year and a half. We only stream 4 hours a week. We do game dev and game industry news today. We talk about the games we're making. We do Unreal game dev, show that whole process. This is my business partner down here, Tony. Yeah, we're the two co-founders of the studio. I'm creative director. Tony is technical director, so he handles all the technology and the tech stack and all that. He's got all the good nerdy how to make video game info for you. Thank you for the follow, Ox. Really appreciate it, bro. But yeah, we stream every Wednesday and every Thursday. Thursdays we kind of do a little bit of like a let's play format, but it's more of like game design concepts and game design breakdown from a professional game designer. So instead of just like playing the game and giving my emotional reactions to it, I try to talk about like what is interesting about this, why they made these creative decisions, like what's cool about this game, or not necessarily cool about it. I'm fucking my words up, but anyway, thanks for coming through, man. So I was rambling about something with games journalism. We were talking about XPlay. I think XPlay was really cool. So anyway, Polygon went under because they got acquired. If you look at like what's the thing I think it's like Google Analytics. If you look at Google Analytics for like website traffic, you'll see that all these games journalism websites have a very steady, if not like dramatic decline over the last like 5 to 10 years. So it's good. It's good that they're going away. They're not useful. People are more, often turning to their favorite streamer. They're watching a YouTube channel. They're not really looking at games journalism stuff. So the whole marketing apparatus is sort of collapsed around that. And it's healthy to have these things go away. So if you're not prepared to lose your job in any industry, that's just the way it goes. Omni's out here talking about dead internet theory. So yeah, I mean, that shit's pretty real. Yeah. No. Oh, they can't hear you, Tony. Damn, that sucks. Tony was making a good point. Yeah. It's just a theory like gravity. It's not real. Wait, what's just a theory, Strava?
Oh, that's too hot. Hold on.
I like it when Tony is too hot.
Testing. Okay, that looks better. I was saying, if you live your life, not necessarily like panicky that you're going to get fired tomorrow, but more just with the mindset of like, if I lost my job tomorrow for some reason, it's going to be okay. Then I just think that's like a much healthier place to be in general, because the reality is that it probably will be okay. Like at this point in our lives, you've probably lost a job before and it was okay. And there are some people in the world who are not as fortunate and don't have a support system that a lot of people do, but you have made it this far in life and you're smart enough to figure it out. And, I would be willing to bet that you will continue to figure it out, even if you did lose your job. So.
Yeah, I think especially, you know, if we want to talk about the game industry, which is what we do all the time, there's nothing guaranteed in the game industry. It's like a gig business, and I don't mean like gig economy. I mean similar to like making a movie, making an album, you know, being in like comedy, right? Like if you're a stand-up comic, you're making your money gig to gig. Like that's how it goes, and that's just something you need to be prepared for. There's significantly there's basically no stability in the game industry. People like Adder, incredibly skilled. That's the most important lesson. If you're endeavoring to get into games, you need to realize that you're competing with the best, most passionate people in the world. And if you're not one of them, it's going to be a rough road. So like, that's just the thing. Just always keep that in mind. Don't think any job you get is permanent. And then, you know, I think in any industry, you want to kind of like be looking for a job every 3 to 5 years, something like that. In the game business, I would say look every like 2 years. You should always be interviewing.
They call it the millennial hop. You get a new job every 3 years because your rate of pay raise will outpace staying at your job.
100%.
If you jump every 3 years, and they say to go 3 years because it looks better on a resume than 1 year. It looks like you actually stay around for a while and, you know, are good at your job and stuff. So, you know, it's just kind of the way things are these days. Because Vince was talking about it when, you know, I first got on. Just you know, you used to get a job at a company when you were 20 and work there until you retired, and they gave you a pension and they treated you really well for your loyalty, and they, you know, it was a symbiotic relationship, and it doesn't really work that way anymore.
Yeah, same matter. It's if you change around, you're going to get a better offer, and it's just that's the way the market works right now. We hope, I think, as human beings, that we'll see a change in that. It's highly unlikely. Business doesn't function as well if they're in the you know, if they're trying to keep people employed. We just don't really have that sort of social construct anymore. So maybe it comes back. Who knows? There could be like a renaissance of that where you see, you know, like tech companies are kind of doing this, where you got someone who's like, everyone makes the same salary. It's full disclosed to everybody, like blah, blah, blah. We might see it come back. But yeah, changing jobs is, so this is a thing, Omni. I have sort of like a theory on, at least in the United States, because all my educational experience is basically in the United States, public education, private education. The way it works when you're going to school as a kid is they're sort of getting you prepared to be a worker. They're not getting you prepared to like function well in life. If you, they kind of like
to do your taxes if they were.
Yeah. And they get you to a point where it's like, you're happy being a worker. They want you to be a worker. Like if you think about the format for public education, at least in the United States, you're conditioned to wake up at a certain time. Your day ends at a certain time. You're doing this from a very young age. So you get this block that's like the, you know, Henry Ford 9-to-5 workday. And you get very accustomed to that. So any change or deviation outside of that schedule becomes very jarring and very difficult for a person to reconcile. So I think if you just approach it in a different way, it'll be healthier, especially for you younger guys in chat that are getting into the job market and all that. Or for some of you older people in chat who are like frustrated with layoffs and all that, just be aware. Like I found that I was much happier when I wasn't attached to jobs. And, you know, I would always keep interviewing, and the more you interview, the better you get at it, the better jobs you can get. It's just better for you as a person. Instead of saying like, man, I hate the way the system works, I wished it worked a different way. Just be like, this is the way it fucking works.
If you have no equity or skin in the game, you owe them nothing.
Yep.
You know, you're literally doing a barter for your labor for their money, and beyond that, you owe them nothing.
And despite what they say,
it's good to remember that.
Especially larger companies, they will be like, we're a family. That's a lie. You're not a family. It's a business. They'll always put the business first. They have to. Otherwise, they just don't stay in business. So
absolutely, Adder, and you get practice. You get practice interviewing. You are networking. You're meeting people. They're gonna remember you whether they hire you or not. If they liked you, you get a free trip out of it. there's very little downside to it, honestly. Like, you, again, unless you have skin in the game, unless you have equity, unless you're a founding member of a company or something, in that case, I would argue you probably do owe them something. And that was kind of the agreement as to why they gave you part of the company, because you will benefit if they do. But outside of that, you know, just remember that you're trading your labor for their money, and that's where it ends.
Yeah, and Adder, I know that you're like, you know, being somewhat sarcastic and you know, self-deprecating, saying "Don't be me." I think people should be more like you, dude. I think as an employee,
of anybody in our chat, I would argue more people should be like Adder, for sure.
Yeah. Dolo, you know, like, pay attention to yourself first as an employee. If you're running your own business, it's very different. Like, Tony and I have a lot of skin in this game, right? This is our project. This is our thing that we are building from the ground up. So like, for us, we're very committed to it, you know, like, and at the end of the day, we're accountable for any bad decisions that happen. Like, that's just how it fucking works.
And
so
we're running a terrible business because I think neither of us really cares about the money part of it right now, because we care about all of the other parts of it. But to that same point, though, if we were trying to run, you know, this creative thing that we're doing and we only cared about money, I argue that the end result would be much worse and probably not even good. So
yeah. I think games is somewhat, you know, entertainment in general, somewhat unique in that regard. You can absolutely index on the money first, but I've talked about it so many times. The people that index on the money first are the people who are ruining the games industry. So luckily, this is an art form and an industry where creativity can shine. You look at stuff like Clair Obscur. We want to talk about that, but I think we're going to save that maybe for tomorrow. Tony's going to take a look at it. We might be playing Clair Obscur tomorrow and doing a game design breakdown of that.
If it's not tomorrow, it'll probably be next week. So that's definitely coming. I very, very much want to play the game. I want to look into, you know, I'm going to decompile it when I download it. I want to kind of look at the files and the plugins myself and stuff, because we were just kind of looking at other people's screenshots on Twitter, and I think it'd be really interesting. But we also don't want to make you guys sit through like 3 hours of intro cutscenes and, you know, all of the setup. We want to be able to talk about the game and the gameplay and the game design and stuff. So we just want to make sure we can get it to that spot first.
Yep. Yeah, that's definitely more of our focus, instead of like 2 hours of cinematics, like you were saying.
And so before we get deeper into games, Vince, we've like barely had time to talk since I got back in town, but just a lot of the stuff you're saying right now is making me reflect on all of the things that you've said to me about Disney over the years. I just went to Disney World and got to kind of like apply, like see all the stuff that Vince has been talking to me about for like the last 5 or 6 years. And you know, I definitely get a lot of the stuff that you're saying now. Like, it's totally on a different level. Every single thing is considered. It's very cool to see, and I could look at it with a completely different lens now than I would have been able to before. So
VR ski free, it's good. Turning cog, it's going really well. You know, we've got a couple more team members back in helping us out with things, which is great. That always like brings a lot of momentum to the project. There's not going to be a Yeti, and we're not actually going for ski free, but yeah. The world building at her, exactly. I've done, like, Disney is a huge creative inspiration just because of how they create and the way they think about things.
There's so many parallels to VR that I feel like are not very obvious to most people. But everything they do is like VR adjacent, in my opinion, especially with like the more modern stuff that like really relies on like projection mapping and kind of filling your view with like a big screen, and kind of like it's basically just tricking your brain into thinking stuff is happening. Like, we went on the flight one, and the reality of the flight one is they're lifting you up in front of a big screen and they're tilting you,
shaking you around
5 degrees, and they're blowing a fan in your face, and they're playing a video, and your brain is 100% I'm flying right now, like no question. And it's just crazy. Like it just takes that little push and you can totally be in there.
Yeah, that's where the suspension of disbelief, that turn of phrase, like, is readily apparent. Just if you go to any of the Disney parks, check out their attractions, they're fully committed to every guest being in their world at every level of detail. And the reason why that matters is because when you do that, it's easier for someone to forget that they're in a theme park that has been carefully designed, they're just going along for the ride, and that
They're spending
transfers
several
to-
$100s an hour on literally everything.
Yeah, and it transfers to every aspect of the experience, and that's why it's successful. That's why it's an international brand. That's why Disney was a visionary. Of course, a problematic person. We can't talk about him without kind of understanding that. Disney is also very litigious. The mouse is very protective of their IPs because they're aware that's their fucking golden goose. So they got to be really careful with it. But it is big business. It's highly calculated. They're very good at what they do. I would say that Disney is probably the best at what they do. Lately, they've been making some misses, like the live action reprisals of the classic animated films they do. Kind of weird.
Like on the entertainment side, yeah, but then like you can look at Disney World and their whole thing, and it's like this is better infrastructure than like governments are able to do. Like this is more well designed than like city planners usually pull off. And the entire thing is like very thought through. And my uncle talked a lot about how Walt Disney before he died was like obsessed with city planning and like urban development and like trying to like figure out better ways to do things. And he always thought like the trash trucks shouldn't drive down the street. That like that's ridiculous. They should be like somewhere where you don't see them. And it just, you see it all the way through. It's really weird to go to a theme park and not feel like, there's maybe like a 10% chance that like something catastrophic goes wrong and I die on one of these rides or something, because that's how it feels when you go to Elitch's or Waterworld or something around here. But it's not like that there. For a fact everything is so safe, is so rock solid, is going to be an enjoyable experience. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, like I want to say the Imagineering department and like the operations teams for the parks, it's unacceptable for something to be even remotely unsafe. And that's because the experience of the crafting is dependent on that shit. They cannot ever have a thing where like someone got stuck on a ride and had a panic attack. It can't happen. They cannot let it happen. So they will shut rides down if there's like telemetry showing that something's acting fucked up. They will turn that whole bitch off and redo the entire ride to fix it all, which is cool. It's frustrating as a guest, but you're never going to be in like a sketchy situation. So yeah, Tony, I'm glad you're saying that, because you're seeing now the through line that I was talking about directly related to like Walkabout in their level design. Yeah, 100%.
Dude. You're standing in line for these rides, and it's like clear they've spent several $1 million just on the part where you stand in the line so that it's interesting and engaging and not too boring. Like you go on the Guardians of the Galaxy ride, there's fucking Terry Crews is like a hologram talking to you on the wall, and they have giant intricate 3D models of the ships that are like rotating that you can look at, and like it's insane. It's so cool. So yeah, it was awesome.
Turning Cog, I think you're thinking of Universal Studios. There's a Spider-Man one now at Disney in California, but that's in like the Marvel mini park that they have, and that's with Tom Holland. He's all over it. I do have to say that like visionary Disney, Walt's original in his park design, like some of my favorite rides that were super inspirational to me as a young kid were Pirates of the Caribbean and Haunted Mansion, and they're very different now.
Blew my fucking mind, dude.
Like when you were a kid or now?
No, now I like they're like, oh yeah, these were made in the 70s, and like there are animatronics on the Pirates ride that like I was convinced that they had like animatronics with like real actors mixed in, and they're like, no, 100%
animatronic.
It's so good, it's crazy. And the Pepper's Ghost thing and the Haunted Mansion was sweet.
Yeah,
like
dude.
All these things Vince has been talking to me about for years and years and years.
It's something you have to see in real life, and then you're like, what the fuck? This is crazy. So cool. Like when the room stretches in the Haunted Mansion because you're on an elevator, it's very cool. Very, very cool. They have it tuned so that you don't feel a sense of lowering. You feel like the roof is growing, and you're in this like
the difference. I learned this in California. The floor lowers, and then they have it so that a thunderclap hits when the elevator hits the bottom, so you don't feel the bump.
Yes.
In California, the ceiling raises and the floor doesn't lower, so they don't have to deal with that. But it was because like California is a much smaller area, so they have to like get very creative about how they fit everything in. But yeah, I was learning all these things. It's really crazy.
It's I love this stuff. The Imagineering design is just so cool. Because they like literally don't dismiss any details. Every detail matters. And that
nobody's ever unfriendly to you. Every
Yep.
single employee is extremely nice and very helpful, and they just seem like they enjoy their job. Like they're not faking it. I don't know. It's interesting.
they also can't break character. If you break character ever, you're done. Last time, so we went to LA Disney, Anaheim Disney in a couple years ago now, but we went to the new Star Wars area, and we were in one of the attractions, and you're like rebels fleeing a planet, and you get captured by the the First Order or whatever it was from the new films, and there's a bunch of live actors in the space with you, and they're like, you're being interrogated by these Imperial officers. And I remember as we were getting like sorted into our prisoner, our cells and all that, the actor's like talking to us, and she's like interrogating us and, going off. And she turns to my wife and she's like, what's your business here? Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, you're a rebel, aren't you? And my wife goes, Mwahaha! Like literally just the corniest laugh you could possibly imagine. She goes, I'll never talk. And the actor was inches from fucking breaking character. She physically turned around and stared at the wall and took a deep breath and comes back to us and just continues to talk. And I was like, that's fucking incredible that my wife almost broke that character. Like, it's so fucking good. So it just, I thought that was perfect because she didn't expect that. Most of the guests are like, oh, haha, yeah, this is fun. I'm a Jedi guy or some shit. I don't know. But my wife was just like, she just leaned into it and just went super crazy with it. It was very funny.
If you guys are interested in all the stuff we're talking about too, there's this book called Hyper Reality that
really good.
Vince reminded me, this guy like worked on Disney stuff though, right?
Yeah.
But this entire book is kind of talking about him designing stuff for Disney, but then he went on to create this thing in Vegas called The Void that was like a VR experience that was in a warehouse where they could basically put you in a VR headset with a computer backpack on, and you could walk through a space, and they could make the space look like whatever they wanted to, basically. And the idea was just that, you'd go in and it would be like a crazy cyberpunk jail one time, and then the next time they could just make it like fantasy, and it'll be a completely different experience, but the space doesn't necessarily have to change and stuff. And it ultimately had to close because of COVID, of course. But this guy is a big pioneer in the space, and especially in like kind of like the Disney experience design stuff. And so good book to check out if you're interested in that, or I think it has like some really good kind of game design insight type stuff in it too. Yeah, Adder, I mean, the park is filled with Unreal Engine. I was doing some research as I went through, and they've leaned into it very hard for all of the modern stuff, and they actually have invested some money into Epic Games and are like an Epic Games partner now. So I feel like the skill sets are extremely applicable to all of this stuff. Yeah.
Turning Cog, I posted it in general fun in the community server, so if you want to get a link to the book, there it is. I don't remember, are you Turning Cog in Discord? I was trying to tag you, but I don't know if you were in there. Adder, I've actually done some work with Imagineering on an attraction design, which was really interesting. It was a very compelling project. And I'm like relatively certain, so it has nothing to do with my design, but I'm relatively certain that's what the like electric, powered cart things were in the it's not the Smuggler's Run, it's the other one. It's the Rebel attraction that I was talking about.
The free cart things that like drive around the warehouse robotically. Yeah.
Yep.
They do it for Ratatouille in Florida, I guess they were telling me.
Yeah, so I did attraction design for that. I don't think I'm allowed to even talk about any of it. I'd love to tell you guys what the project was because it sounded really cool, but I think there were a lot of safety concerns. It was cool. It was leaning into a completely different IP. It was interesting, but I don't think that they were able to figure out a way to make it like actually work and be safe for guests and stuff like that. But it was pretty fun. The weird part about the project is I did all my design remote, and the company principals that were like running the whole thing and doing the deal, they got to go out and take a look at the thing. But as a designer, like they didn't even bring me out, and that was kind of annoying because I'm like, why wouldn't you want me there? Like, you're representing my ideas and what I wanted to do. But it's fine. It's just the way it goes. So it would have been cool to be able to go out to Imagineering, but I wasn't able to.
Did you do the
Irvine
rocket launch simulator one?
Yeah, Mission Space.
That one was sweet, and we got off it, and then my uncle goes, "All right, now that we're done, I can tell you that one killed somebody one time." I'm like, nice, thanks.
So when I did it, I was day drinking at Epcot for like 6 hours.
And I imagine you went on the orange track, like the hard one.
Yep.
Yep.
I went in there, and I was in there with like a dad and his boy, and like the kid was super into it. I was like, dude, you gotta hit all these switches, man. You gotta hit it. We're not gonna be able to launch. And he was like getting super into it, and the dad was like laughing his ass off. It was so fun.
If you guys don't know, this is a decommissioned NASA astronaut training simulator that Disney bought and put in their park, and it's a giant centrifuge that has I think 4 cars on these arms around the middle, and they do just crazy shit with it because the centrifugal force really gives you a lot of G-force. They're able to kind of like tilt you up to make you feel weightless. They tilt you down to make you feel like you're doing a launch, tilt you forward to make you feel like you're falling. It's really cool, and but you're spinning very fast, and if you notice, you start to feel sick very quickly. So,
I mean, they don't recommend you go on it with any alcohol in your system, and I definitely went on it while intoxicated, and I had a great time. So I don't recommend that for everybody. I know it does make people sick, 100%.
The rocket launch part though was like, I was like, oh wow, this is very intense. I did not expect it to be as intense as it was. It was cool. So.
Oh yeah, Omni, that's correct. The Rise of the Resistance. That's the one I was thinking of. So the prototype that I worked on involved those electric carts when they were very, very early prototypes. This is like over 10 years ago at this point. It was cool. It was definitely cool. It's interesting to see the direction it went in and like what they chose to build with that technology. But those like AI powered carts were new at the time. And I guess not AI powered, autonomous, like, you know, driven according to software and all that stuff. That was very new technology. So if you think about it, over 10 years ago, they were prototyping this shit at Imagineering, and they finally released an attraction like only a couple of years ago. So if you consider how much effort it takes for them to build these attractions, that is just interesting in and of itself. You're like, fuck, what are they doing with this technology? They have this thing, I don't know what it's called, but it's like the smart floor, and it has these super weird shapes that let you like walk naturally, but you never move. So I imagine,
treadmill.
Yeah, I imagine that's going to turn into something very, very, very cool in the future. I rode the launch ride at Kennedy Space something. Yeah, Kennedy Space Center in, I think that's Cocoa Beach or just outside of Cocoa Beach. Yeah, I've got like a lot of family in Florida, so I've been to Disney.
Oh no, it was like 20 minutes away from where we were in Orlando, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, Kennedy Space Center is very, very cool. I've actually been there for a couple shuttle launches and stuff. It's pretty fun. But I love space. I love space exploration. I think it's super cool, very inspiring. So yeah, that's what I was really into.
Cool, wasn't it, Mini-Me?
Yeah, space is fucking great. Smugglers Run vehicle engineering is also bonkers. Behind the scenes of how they load unload is wild. Yes, totally agree. Missed the SpaceX launch because I wasn't paying attention at the time.
That's too bad.
It sucks, dude. I really like watching what SpaceX is doing. I don't know if you guys have seen it, but I have an Axiom Space hat. I have some family friends. So I come from a military family. Weird connections in life. Turns out that like one of the guys in the squadron with my dad in the 80s and 90s ended up becoming a test pilot. My dad did some test pilot stuff too for the Navy. But the test pilot then got into like NASA and became an astronaut. So like I have a family friend who's an astronaut. So that when I said I went to, you know, Cocoa Beach for shuttle launches, it's because I was in like friends and family section, you know, for NASA space program things. It's very, very cool. Very interesting. But yeah, that dude then got into, I think he was a lobbyist for commercial space flight and was like an investor or a partner or something like that with Axiom Space, which is a private space industry company that does stuff with SpaceX. So he was on one of the first Falcon flights or something like that, that put the Dragon pod up into some shit. I don't know. I'm fucking rambling about it. It's fun. I like space. Adder's asking, is this PCGE stuff?
Yes. So we can keep talking about whatever, but I'm just gonna mess around with the PCG. What is this even called? I can't remember now. PCG extended toolkit, right? PCG extended toolkit plugin. Yeah, so you can get this on Fab. It's also on GitHub if you want to compile it yourself for some reason. This is their demo project, but this is supposed to just add a lot of utility and user friendliness to the existing PCG system in Unreal. And the more we've been leaning into it, this is interesting to me. I want to see if it's helpful or not, but I've seen a lot of really positive discussion from Unreal people so far about it. So
kind of a hard pivot to the side, but before we get too deep into the Unreal dev talk stuff, do you guys want to watch the GTA 6 trailer?
Oh yeah, I want to do that too because I haven't actually seen it yet. So
neither have I. So Tony, if you can pull that up.
The music out?
Fuck yeah. All right, I'm gonna watch this with you guys. I've never seen it, so this will be interesting.
Let's go this real quick. Levels here. Yes, okay.
I'm just fixing some leaks.
Seriously, dude, you got some time on your
You got an echo, Tony.
properties with paying tenants?
Well, that's why you came by?
Just go get me my checks.
See you, Brian. Love you, Jason.
Jason more like Basin.
I'm here for Lucia Caminos. She's supposed to be getting out.
What's your name?
Jason Duval.
I've seen you here before.
You might have. Hey.
Hey. Hands above your head, now!
You, stay. The new beginnings.
You break the news, isn't it? Trust me.
All right, chat's blowing up, so I got to talk for a second. They've said this was captured on a base PS5, not a PS5 Pro. It's rendered in-engine. Doesn't necessarily mean this is representative of gameplay or what it's going to look like in the final, but they've tried to explain that this isn't fake and should be treated as such. And if you look back at when Red Dead Redemption 2 was announced and initially shown off, Red Dead looks much better in the final released version than it did when they showed it off, and everybody said the same things. So we'll see what happens, but I would go into this potentially open-minded that this is maybe pretty close to what it is going to look like at the end of the day. And I'm going to skip back to where we were, but somebody said show gameplay, and I saw some people saying that this part right here where he walks in the door is very clearly a transition from like a cutscene to like where you would take control of him if you watch.
See you, Brian. Love you,
Like
Jason.
right here, it's probably going to cut to like you have control of the player, and then they cut the video, of course. So
The new beginnings.
You break the news, isn't it? Trust me, this place is just the start for us.
Ring the bell! Shots, baby!
The only thing that matters is who you know and what you got.
Gonna do this? We're doing it right.
Yo, D, this full effect? They got your name, address, they got everything.
Us cops, we gotta protect each other.
You and me, Lou. We got this.
We got it.
Say my city, baby.
Vice City, baby!
Go
Welcome to Fields Ammunition. Today, we got more guns than the law allows.
Hey.
Hey, if you got friends, can you hook me up, please?
Right.
I don't even know that I'm whelmed, but I'm not a GTA player, so I don't know. That didn't sell me on
The
anything.
technical side of it is insane. Like it looks so good, and I hope it actually does, end up looking this good when you're playing it and stuff. Like that'll be cool. But yeah.
It's interesting. It's important that we have games like this. I think I'm just kind of tired of video games being more movie than video game, which is not to say that I'm like decrying that. I think it's okay. I think it's just overused as like a storytelling method. Yo, same matter. I know what you mean by donks. Yeah. But lean back, right hand on the pine wood, right? Ice cream paint jobs and shit. Yeah, I'm with you, Adder. I'm not excited in any way for this game for the same reason. Just a big interactive movie.
If they end up coming out with like some compelling online system where like it's not GTA 5 online, where there's just like chaos gremlins ruining your time all the time, and you can just kind of like play the game with your friends or something, I would potentially be into that. But outside of that, I'm kind of in the same boat as you guys.
Knox is unimpressed from YouTube chat. He hit us with the resident sleeper, which doesn't turn into an emote in YouTube chat, but I love it. It's great. Yeah, no, I agree with you. I know that there are people who are like really fucking hyped for this though. So it matters at least to some people, which is, it's interesting. I grew up in Long Beach, born in Whittier. Donks scraping bumpers on Main Boulevard. Yeah, dude. Donks are more of like a southern thing. But yeah, I know what you mean. Like donks versus lowriders, right? Either way, cars are cool. I like cars. So GTA 6, I don't know, man. Like, I guess it's cool.
I kind of wish Anime was here because I know he probably can't talk about it much, but I just want like a yes or no. Like, has it changed a lot since the last time you saw it? Like, is there like a lot of improvement, or are we like having another marathon discussion where it's like, I don't know if you guys remember seeing the leaks a while back, but like it looked like most of the game was even playable at that point. It just had some like visual stuff to clean up and bugs to fix and stuff. So I'm sure even what Josh was saying when he was there is probably pretty close to what the initial release product is going to look like.
Turning cog, I definitely meant badonkadonk when I said donks, but Adder's a car guy, so we immediately started talking about donk cars. So
No.
Yeah, I don't fucking know. I don't know. I think Brightside was excited for it. I'm pretty sure he was like very into it. So there's definitely an audience. I mean, obviously, like GTA 5 RP has been going for a long time. It does scream Brightside, yeah.
It's definitely like, I don't know. You could probably make the argument that like this is elevating the art form or like pushing things forward in some way that we need in the industry, whether this game is for everybody or not. Like this is a standard of quality that more AAA titles should probably strive for, and this game has been delayed a lot because they knew it wasn't ready yet. And say what you want about Rockstar and GTA, but they're probably doing this right.
Yep. Yeah, totally agree with that. And while I was saying I'm tired of games that are like a movie, it all depends on the game. I think that it's overused in a lot of games. It doesn't make sense. This game, it makes sense. Yep. Death Stranding, it makes sense. So I guess what I mean is like I'm trying to think of a game where like there were cinematics and story type shit going on that I was like, I don't care about any of this. I just want to like, you know, do my card battle or whatever the fuck, right? Like that's where I think it's very weird.
Yeah, I'm trying
Pretty
to
much
think. I
every
know
2 weeks
we
game.
were playing a game together recently where I was just like mashing through the cutscenes because I didn't care even a little bit about them. I'm trying to think what it was.
I think if you are
I
making a
know,
video game with cutscenes and you make them skippable, you should wonder why you're making them in the first place.
Might have just been Path of Exile.
Artificial, I was not shooting shots at you know, Kojima. I actually really like the way he does it. I think he understands it and he merges the two things in a really good way. But he's also like he's been making video games for a very long time and is dabbling in film now. So like
He's
I think
definitely
that's
more
right.
trying to make like a movie you can control these days, and he's talked about it too. Like he's such a big movie guy. So
I think the design fits with like Telltale games type of stuff where you're like, you know, it's a choose your own adventure narrative type of a thing with QTEs and whatnot. I think that's fine. Again, it's like when I'm talking about like a card, you know, a deck builder or something like that, and they have like cinematics, that doesn't make any fucking sense to me. It's like, why did you put them in there?
I did see somebody describe this as Fast and Furious 1 Paul Walker simulator, and
Okay,
that makes it a little more appealing to me if you want to think about it that way. But
that sounds good.
you know, he's got like his hot Latina girlfriend, and they're like pulling off like heists with streetcars and like jumping in the back of semis and stuff. Like I don't know, it's all there.
That seems good. That seems good. I don't know if I want to play it. I didn't play 5. Like, I just wasn't into it. So I'm definitely not the right audience for this. But this looks like a good game.
The first heist, I feel like at least 3 times, and kind of just like got bored of it at that point.
Nox says San Andreas was the peak GTA for him. For me, it was Vice City. That's the one that I played all the way through. And Vice City wasn't even a novel story. It was literally
Scarface.
Yeah, Scarface. I was like, what's it called? Thank you, Tony.
The cool thing about this is Vice City 40 years after that, and
Yeah.
I have to hope that there's a lot of callbacks to OG Vice City that, you know, people who liked that game will appreciate. So like my uncle who like isn't a big gamer, like he's like, oh my god, Vice City is like my favorite game of all time. I'm like, oh man.
Yeah, there's definitely people like that. Strava says you have to make things skippable because being forced to watch stuff feels bad, especially with multiple playthroughs. My argument is if you're being forced to watch something and it's not a good experience, it doesn't belong in the game. That's my take on it. I think it's a wasted effort and someone's shoehorning an agenda in there. Probably the creative director saying, no, it's cinema. You know, like we got to do this thing. It fucking matters. Like it doesn't.
Are like, there are people who I know 100% of the time for their entire lives skip the cutscenes, don't pay attention to the story. Like, how do you square with those people then if that's the take? Like, because you could argue in most cases, like maybe there are cutscenes in Death Stranding or something that do need to be there and that you should watch. I'm pretty sure you can still skip them, but you have to like hold down a button and it has to be very intentional. Guaranteed there are people who do that, and they probably don't think the game is that good at the end of the day too.
Yeah, so as an
Omni
artist,
won't play the game if it doesn't have a skip option.
yeah,
There
and
you
as
go.
an artist, as weird as it sounds, I'm cool with Omni not playing my game if I put cinematics in. That doesn't mean I'm going to be like, no, you must watch my cinematic. I'm going to think about whether or not it even fucking matters to put a cinematic in there in the first place. So, but as like a business person, you have to realize that like if you don't let people skip, you're probably leaving money on the table. So, just as a designer, you know, it's like these two ideas are in conflict. Like I have a story I'm trying to tell. I want to bring people in. I want to get them on board. I don't think a cinematic is necessarily always the way to do it. I'm also very into didactic game design, didactic game design. And what I mean by that is like playing the game teaches you how to play it and doesn't require cutscenes. You are participating in the cutscene. So like scripted events and stuff, I think are way more effective. Something that doesn't pull you out of being a player of the game. So like Half-Life 2 is a great example, right? there's basically no cutscenes. Or I'm thinking of Half-Life 1. There's basically no cutscenes.
There's
Like,
not Half-Life 2 either. So.
Yeah, you're interacting with NPCs in the game, and you can turn around and walk away from them, and they react to you walking away and shit like that. Like, that's important. That's the way to do it. I think that's
or like in VR, like you can't do a cutscene in VR. You would be taking the player out of their supposed eyeballs or something if you start like pointing cameras and stuff. So you have to do the Half-Life 2 approach, and you got to keep it fully grounded. So
yep,
you keep talking about this, but I put up this trailer one, which is a year old, and I feel like you can see in this screenshot how much lower quality the visuals are than the one that we just watched. This looks like a PS4 game. The new one looks better than a PS5 game.
Adder makes a point of, let's see, there's a bunch of messages. Directing cinematics, skip the and finish the skip system this week. Doesn't like the publishers, like Square Enix forced 90+ minutes of useless cinematics, push the dev to force the player to watch every second. Personally, don't give a shit about game lore these days. I just want to blow shit up. And that's the point that I'm trying to make. I think the Ouroboros, snake of entertainment has eaten itself. Games in the 90s, they dabbled in putting cinematics in, and then they found value in adding a cinematic for world building and storytelling because the game came first. Yep. Today in 2025, you have cinematic comes first. The story is the most important part. That's not why people play games. It's just not why. So I think we're going to see a return to things that make a little more sense. Who fucking knows? I hope, especially with indies, as long as indies aren't trying to replicate what AAA is doing without understanding why they're doing it, I think we're in a better position.
I got questions about what Adder said. He said, I personally don't give a shit about game lore these days. I just want to blow shit up. So does that mean if you play a game with good lore or storytelling or something that you're less likely to engage with it now, or you're going to skip the cutscenes, or it just isn't as important as it used to be? I want a cinematic to quickly bridge gameplay moments that I couldn't properly convey through gameplay systems. It saves everyone time and the devs money. That's a good way to break it down. Yeah,
strongly agree with that, Adder.
Resident Evil 4 strongly disagrees with what Striva said about don't putting QTEs in the cinematics or immediately after them. I think God of War did that as well. You just had to always be ready to go.
I would argue that I think that's the correct way to do it, because then the player's still engaged with the cinematic content.
Just don't give them a 15-minute wait before it happens.
Yeah. And also, if you're doing it, warn the player. Teach them that QTEs exist in the game. Make the first ones really easy to fucking understand and hard to do wrong, right? And then get into the later ones. So this is what I mean about didactic game design, right? The first time a QTE and a cinematic exists, it should be very straightforward, really easy. Prepare the player for those moments so that they have the right expectations, and the later ones become challenging and they're more engrossed in the combat and they're a part of the cinematic. There's a way to do that. And I think AAA has fucked that up a lot, especially because they're going for mass market. So you might have a designer that understands this and is trying to build it that way. But then market testing comes through and they're people don't get this. And it's well, people didn't fucking play the game for 10 hours to learn the mechanics and get used to it. So the market data is going to fuck it up. And then they make a weird product because they're, concerned with focus groups. And it's the wrong way to go about it. That works for movies. That works for advertising. That works for mainstream media. Video games are not mainstream media. Gaming as a hobby is a lot more mainstream, but the methods do not carry over. Video games are unique. They do their own thing. They stand alone as an art form. So you got to remember that and respect it when you're building stuff.
So I wonder what you think about what Adder said on this last point. I just don't want to spend any time soaking up lore, even in games where it's focal. I pick up the key beats in The Last of Us. I understand the need to get from A to B, but I don't have time for the details. And that kind of goes back to if you remember kind of my existential crisis about Armored Core and some of these other games that I've played, where it's 99.8% of people will never know what this game truly has to offer, because you have to really work for it to understand it and to get to it. And it kind of fucks me up when I think about it a little bit, because it's unrealistic to expect every single player to go to those lengths, and most people aren't even going to play the game, especially Armored Core. That's not a mass appeal game to begin with. and somebody just put so much time and effort into those things, and they did such a good job, and they deserve so much more recognition than they get. And you know, I totally get the point that you're making, but it just like, I guess that's the reality that you have to come to terms with when you make these things.
Yeah, my take on that, from your perspective, I think it's super valid. As someone who would be making that thing, the reason you make it is for a player like you who really cares about it, and the reason why you deliver it in that way, where like most players will not even understand it or see it. So I've literally made shit like this in Destiny. But the reason why you do it that way is because for a player like you, it makes the experience better without getting in the way of a player who doesn't care about that or is not interested. Best example I can give is the quest that I made on Titan in D2 launch for the save or kill the captain, who became Mithrax and was like a larger character in the story narrative. But the majority of players didn't even realize there was an option. And the way I designed it was on purpose for them to make their own choice. And if you decide to, basically at the end of the mission, there's a fallen captain and a hive knight, and they're fighting each other. And Ghost has this line where he's like, wait a minute, remind me again, are the fallen our friends or our enemies? So he's like, this is weird. Why are they fighting each other? I've never seen these combatants do this in this context, and we've been chasing this fallen guy the whole time. Most players don't think about that. They don't have it in their head. That's not the kind of game it is. So that's why I built it this way. Most players just either killed both of them or, killed... They just cleared the room and went and hit their objective. Totally valid. If you chose to kill the knight, the captain becomes, like, not hostile. He, like, backs up and then, like, bows to you and concedes the objective and then teleports out. And you're like, wait, what the fuck was that? And you get like different voice lines and like different, quest step lore and shit like that. So it gives you this different mix of things.
If this is interesting to you guys, we have a whole section in our Whisper of the Worm video on YouTube about this. That's what I'm showing right here. I just wanted to pull it up so you could kind of see what he was talking about. But this is what it actually looks like at the end of this mission if you don't kill Mithrax here.
So yeah, he just backs up and he chills out, and he's basically like, so in my head, this is not directly related to the player, but like you've bested him. So he's like, okay, you win later, dude. I'm out of here. And then he disappears and lets you take the thing that, because you spared his life, he's like an honorable combatant. And I wanted to add more depth to the combatants in the game in that way through this like, environmental storytelling type of shit. So these guys will never kill each other, or it takes like 45 minutes of them fighting to kill each other because they do like 1 damage to each other. But yeah, so you blast the knight and then he just backs off. You can still shoot him at this point. You can still try to kill him, and then I think it like fucks things up a little bit, but or he's immune. I don't know. It's been like 8 years now since I made this thing.
That guy was just kind of like a nothing side character when you made that mission, right? And then he ended up being like, if we jump ahead to our 0 hour video, like again, we talk about kind of at the end how Mithrax shows up and becomes a part of this mission that Vince made.
Yeah, and the reason I went with Mithrax is because I didn't have a whole lot of support building that, and I was like, well, this character already exists. I made the character. I'm very familiar with the character's like narrative through lines and all that, so I'll put him in 0 hour and give him more room to breathe and like flesh him out a little more. So I did that, and he became like the benefactor for this whole secret mission. And that because people inside the studio were super excited about it. When I left, I had a conversation with a creative director, I think. I don't know what he does now, but his name's Tom. And Tom was like, are you cool with me continuing to like develop this character and do stuff? And I was like, yeah, man, go ahead. And then he made Into the Light, and Mithrax was like the core character for the Fallen and all that. So wild departure from like what I wanted to do with the character, but it's fine. I gave that to Bungie. That was a thing, like a gift I gave them for what I made, and they were allowed to do whatever they wanted with it because I was no longer there, and it was their game and their story. So totally okay with me. I would have gone different directions with it, but it neither here nor there. It doesn't matter.
This is Mithrax right here at the end of the mission. So after you kill the final boss, this ship flies in, and it gives you the weapon, right, that you're doing this mission for, and then it flies off and like shoots at you, right?
Yeah. So I guess this kind of brings up a good point. You guys have heard me talk about how like not all designers are made the same. I cared about shit like this, and a lot of people I worked with said this was a waste of time. Players don't care. They'll never see it. They won't understand it. But making these things and seeing how people reacted to it, they fucking loved it. They were like, this is incredible. How did this get into the game? You know, like they were very excited about it and they thought it was very cool. So my point was proven just in player reception. So like you could make the argument that, oh, this is risky and if you do it wrong, it's not good. But I did it with basically no resources and was able to achieve the effect. So this is where I say like, yeah, of course I'm talking myself up here, but this is where I say not all designers are made the same, right? Like not all designers are good or not all designers understand the product they're working on. It just doesn't work that way in AAA anymore. That's why I'm doing what I'm doing now with Fractal Grove, is because now my voice can be louder and I can make this type of shit where I care about these details and I put them into the game. You guys should expect this type of stuff from Hyperskate. So even though, you know, there was jokes about it being ski free in VR and all that, you should expect depth like this in Hyperskate. This is how I think about making games. There's stuff like this that we are planning, that we've started building, that is already in the game. You know, we've told you guys before, I wrote like a whole story for it. So there's all kinds of shit, and it's not going to be delivered through cinematics and whatnot. It'll be, you play the game and that's how you're going to experience it all. So anyway.
And if you guys think what we're talking about right now is cool and interesting, please go subscribe to our YouTube channel. We have 2 very lengthy videos about Destiny 2, which Vince was a designer on, where we go through some of the, you know, more iconic missions that he helped build. And we're really trying to get to 1,000 subs. So if you guys could help us out, that would be great.
Yeah, it'd be huge. It would get it to the point where we can monetize YouTube, because we're not, the only way we get any YouTube revenue, which we have not gotten at all, is through super chats. Not necessarily trying to encourage you guys to super chat, but if you want to, I'm sure it will help the channel grow in some way, and all that money goes directly to the game studio. So good stuff. 40-minute cinematic in Hyperskate? No, absolutely not. I will never do that.
Like we were talking about in VR, like it's got to be more like Half-Life 2, where you have full agency at all times. So.
What's the like Viking mythology? Asgard's Wrath. Asgard's Wrath 2 especially attempted to do cinematic type shit, and it immediately made me go, I don't fucking care. There's really interesting gameplay moments, but I think they lean more into like you're inside of a movie, and it's a little weird.
Pistol Whip does one too, where you're like standing in a room and there's like a big movie screen that it kind of has like 3D like comic panels in it, but that's how they went about it. And I don't know, not a fan, but
yeah, it's weird.
There's different ways to handle it, but yeah, sometimes you play a game, they literally just put you in like a black void with like a floating screen, and they play cinematic on it and then put you into the game or something. Weird choice for VR. But
I think if you're, as you know, as the creative, the person making the thing, if you find that you can't tell your story without a cinematic, you need to rewrite your story. You need to make it more about the game. That's just what I believe. I understand that, like, if I was saying that on a project I was working on, that's very disruptive. People would be upset because they'd be like, I already spent 150 hours doing this. Like, I'm not going to spend more time. Like, I got to rework this. Oh my God, you're making my life chaos. Yeah, but like, I'm going to, you know, if I were in charge first, I would not have said that's a good idea. I would have been like, let's not do this. This doesn't make any sense, and, you know, violates the pillars of what the gameplay experience is. I want to read your messages at her, so I'm going to go back. Exactly, you're making that type of game for the 0.5% who spend the time to soak up the story. 3 to 5% of players made it to level 3 in COD campaigns while I was there, and after level 3, quality of content drops off exponentially to save dev costs. Yep.
Interesting. I mean, you always get to the end of a game, and you're like, man, they really phoned this one in. So, yeah.
Adder says, I think he's talking about Asgard's Wrath. The devs weren't a huge fan of that feature either. There was a lot of interesting features that Meta really pushed on that project. Yeah, dude. So while
that was their golden child for a long time. They were hyping Asgard's Wrath 2 up like all through the Quest 2, and then around the Quest 3 launch, they gave everybody a copy. I got it for free, and I've never played it because
It's
doesn't really entice me. So
you swing your arm around with a sword, you know, like it's not super great. However, I will say that there's this thing that they do where it's like you're a demigod, or like you embody the power of a god, and you were just a Viking that like found the sword. Anyway, you're standing in an ocean, and there are these giant ships and like krakens and stuff like going crazy, and that's very cool. That's the right way to do it. That was awesome. That was a cool moment. They had a ton of devs, 40 environment artists. That's crazy for a fucking VR game. Honestly, that's a lot of people to build a VR game. I wonder,
someday like to try Behemoth out.
Yeah,
looked pretty interesting, but it also just, I don't know. I kind of got the sense that it's very similar to Asgard's Wrath at the end of the day. So,
yes,
I don't know.
There's a lot of weird things they do, like that sounds fun in VR, but just doesn't feel super great. Like throw mechanics. Throwing anything in VR feels awful. And they decided to be like, you can throw your sword and then recall it to your hand like Kratos in God of War. And it's like, that sounds good. It does not play well in VR. It feels horrible. Because you
goes
like
back to there's this quest game called Racket Pinball that I've been playing recently that I actually think is pretty good. But after playing it for a while, I realized that one of the things they had to do was heavily like bake where the ball goes when you hit it. Like, as opposed to it just going wherever it's going to go when you hit it, it'll travel in a pretty straight line towards like a thing that it's supposed to hit that is kind of in the direction that you hit it every time. And once you understand how the system works, you can kind of like aim where you're hitting the ball almost every hit. And that's probably good from like a game mastery perspective and ability to like have a consistent experience. But I think it just points to the fact that like it would also be terrible if you didn't do that. And it would be kind of like the throw mechanics where there's no feedback that you can feel because it's not happening for real that will tell you if you're doing it right, or that, you know. So just one of those challenges that we have to face with VR.
LFQ, I missed his message, but he says, I can't remember what game it was, but I played a game once where you could skip cinematics after watching them once. I like that. I actually think that's cool because that's a very real design concern. If you know that you have to do this cinematic because there's no other way to tell that, you're stuck in a corner, you're deep in the development cycle, you got to put this shit in. At least make it fucking skippable after you've seen it once, especially for the next playthrough. If you have an NG plus mechanic or something like that, like that's the right way to do it.
God forbid you have an intro cinematic in a boss fight that you have to do multiple times because it's hard and you keep dying or something. Yeah,
that's infuriating to me as a player.
Everybody's had that experience back in the N64 PS2 days where they hadn't figured the stuff out yet.
Even like modern games do that shit all the time. I can't remember what I was playing recently, but there's something where like
fighting Millennia, and she just says like the same voice line over and over and over and over and over, and you have to fight her like 1,000 times before you beat her. Like, it gets a little tough.
Oh, Ninja Gaiden did it to me.
Yeah.
Every time I had to restart, I had to watch the stupid boss intro cinematic over again, and it was like I lost 10 to 15 seconds on every attempt, and it was very frustrating.
Yep.
That's why I built the Whisper in 0 Hour the way I did. I delivered narrative, I delivered lore, but I did it through environmental storytelling, and I never got in the way of the player with a timer doing a challenging activity. I never got in the way of them running it back and trying again so that they could optimize their time and learn in the least frustrating way possible. I removed all those barriers on purpose. I violated some of the encounter design pillars of like, you got to give the player some tension and some like punishment for failing an activity. My thought process on that was the punishment is the timer. The timer gives you so much anxiety that adding more anxiety or adding more tension was not good. So I went the opposite direction. I made it so that you could revive instantly. You could revive your teammate with the shortest time possible. It was actually faster to just self-revive and go back to a checkpoint. And I made it so that it didn't punish you. There was no darkness zone where like if you fucked up, you got reversed because the timer would keep going. Like that shit was crazy to me. So I did a bunch of stuff that like, hey, no other activity works this way. Why did you do that? And I'm like, because I played it. and I'm aware of how players play the game, and I wanted to make sure that I gave them no barriers to learning this shit and getting good at it. So yeah, updating BIOS, my USB 3 started acting a fool. What do you mean copy fail? Oh, I'm missing some messages, I think. Oh, did Tony copy fail? I don't know. I don't know what you're talking about.
I think Shooted's talking about the Reddit thing he posted, where he put like the entire Reddit title in the thing. Turning cog, updating BIOS, my USB 3, so that's not good. Don't brick your computer.
Yeah, don't do that, Turning Cog. You won't be able to continue working on your game.
BIOS updates are always so scary. I always try not to do them, to be honest.
When you're saying copy doesn't mean copy everything, I don't know if you're referencing something that I said, because like you got to tell me what you're talking about, because otherwise I just literally have no idea what the fuck you're trying to say, because I say words.
He pressed the copy button in the Reddit app to get the title. He got Reddit r/Wonderlands 20 plus comments 3 years ago.
I got you. Okay, I get it. Don't wish that shit on me. Yeah, we don't wish it on you.
I wish you luck in your BIOS updating.
Don't be like Pixar on Toy Story 2.
Toy Story 2 was almost lost due to file corruption, and the only reason that the entire fucking movie was saved is because one of the artists took it home to work on it one day and had a backup on his personal computer. So
amazing.
Like
probably violating NDA and company policy and doing that, and then he like saved it.
Yep.
I bet he got in trouble. I bet he got in trouble.
Side note about Pixar, there is, you know, the thing in Epcot where you go in the ball and it goes through like the history of communication or whatever.
Yeah.
So, or like the history of humanity or whatever, and how we're all connected or something. There's a point where it starts talking about the invention of the computers and the internet, and they say a guy in a garage in Palo Alto like changed the history, but they won't fucking say Steve Jobs. It's so clearly Steve Jobs, and they won't say his name.
They can't, dude.
That's a massive shade.
They couldn't say his name.
It's crazy. Like Steve Jobs made Apple made Pixar. You know, the rest is history. It's kind of crazy that they won't say his name. But
I remember that now, Adder. Paternity leave, and she hadn't hooked up her machine to the internet yet. I think this was in Ed Catmull's book, Creativity Inc. I think he talks about this because he was talking about like company policy, and that this person very clearly violated the company policy, but the company policy was fucking stupid. So they like changed it after that or something because they were so afraid of leaks and like people getting shit out. He was like, you need to trust the people that you're working with and like be more discerning about who you hire. You know, if people give a shit about what they're working on.
Is Catmull Clark talking about this guy? Oh yeah, totally. Interesting. It's like a big like 3D subdivision algorithm thing.
Yep. So Ed Catmull was the like tech director at Pixar who became like the company head. But he's the guy that invented the method for displaying 3D graphics. Like he figured out how to actually do it. And
Pixar invented a lot of like rendering technology that we kind of take for granted now, just to like make Toy Story basically, and you know, revolutionize computer display of graphics and stuff to make Toy Story.
Like Catmull's genuinely a visionary. I don't know the guy, and I'm sure his book is written in a way that talks him up in the best way. However, he's a business leader, so I'm sure that there were some things that people don't like about him, and he was probably a little rough around the edges and didn't make people happy in certain ways. But he's one of the guys who talked about like servant leadership and caring about the people. Like there's so many examples from history, especially in like the military, where like a captain of a ship decided to run their ship their own way, and that's why the Navy like functioned in that way. Like there's standard operating procedure and like military doctrine for how things should be done, but all of the best innovators and leaders did stuff that broke with the norm, and then they were highly successful. So it's important to know the rules first. Like I think about this with like competitive fighting games, and like this is a lesson you can learn from video games. If you're playing something competitive and you're like, oh man, this guy's cheap, he's just using this imbalanced character that's too strong, that mentality is your ego holding you back, and you need to be aware of the rules first and really understand all the parts, because when you understand all of the parts and you know the rules and you're familiar with it, then you can break the rules. Yeah, meta versus counter meta. You must understand the meta first. So if you're hopping in and you're going like, nah, we can do it a different way, that's also ego. It's ego in the wrong direction. Destiny 2 became Destiny 2 rather than an expansion of D1 because myself and a couple others implemented Disney Pixar GGX shaders within the Destiny pipeline.
Yep, we talked about that in the 0 Hour video.
100%. It's very true. And I actually, so Adder, I was one of the guys, like I did the reprisal of the Cosmodrome for the Thunderlord quest. So I was the first person in the studio that was like, yeah, we can actually do this and like bring. So sorry, guys, I'm indirectly responsible for Content Vault and bringing back D1 into D2 because I proved that we could do it. It then was monopolized and turned into a way to get more money out of players. So I'm sorry about that. That wasn't my intention. I just wanted to be like, we can make the game bigger and better and more interesting. But obviously, you know, the road to hell's paved with good intentions, right? And I basically laid the first brick for that nonsense. So I apologize to any Destiny fans that it turned out that way. That was not my intention. Yeah, I had to get people to migrate assets from D1 for us. Yep, totally. Talked about how the switch to PBR is why Destiny 2 happened in the 0 Hour vid. Yep, absolutely. 3-person tech art strike team that worked on the shader package. That's very cool, Adder. Like, it's super crazy to, you know, years later meet someone on Twitch who we did a lot of work together without actually like directly talking and like knowing who the other person was. Like, that should give you guys some insight to AAA and how fucked it is. There's too many people. I should have worked directly with Adder on these things. Like, that there should have been a fucking pipeline there for that to occur. Like, but it wasn't possible because, you know, I was a mid-low designer, and so I had to just sit in my corner and do my thing and like be quiet about it and do my job. Yeah, it's crazy. They even put us in a secret room in the studio for like 4 months. It was weird. Yeah, dude. And it's because there's too much bureaucracy. When you have too many people doing a thing, it just gets fucked up. And it ends up coming out weird, and people are like, why did you do this? And it's like, well, you guys don't understand the thousands of decisions that came into play, and that it always comes down to like one person. So I'm thinking a lot about how I was talking about the military. In World War II, there was a submarine captain, and military doctrine was that submarines were a defensive weapon only, mostly used as naval scouts, and that's it. They were never used offensively. There was a captain who, when he got command of his own boat, decided to do things entirely different. He had an egalitarian crew. Everyone was flat. Rank didn't matter. He said, do not call me captain. You will call me by like my, you know, military academy, you know, joke name. Everybody in the military has like a joke name. Like, if you guys have seen Full Metal Jacket, the drill instructor, Arlie Ermy, calls, you know, the journalist guy who's embedded in the platoon, he calls him, you know, Private Joker because he thinks he's funny, right? So that those names stick with you. So anyway, the point that I'm making is that this captain was like, you'll refer to me by my Private Joker name, you know, which was Mush. He's like, you'll call me Mush, and that's how it works. And he delegated all of his responsibility. So he had his XO on the periscope. He had all of his like sensors and weapons guys telling him information. So he wasn't directing everybody with his hands in their fucking business and doing their jobs for them. He's like, I'm going to let my crew tell me what to do, or like, give me this information, then I will make a decision. Very subversive to military doctrine at the time. However, he won like multiple awards, like, or I guess one is the wrong way to say that. He was awarded multiple times, highly decorated, changed the way submarine, you know, military doctrine worked. He proved that certain things would work a different way. The point I'm making is Ed Catmull's probably somewhat adjacent to that. Disruptive, a bit of a rule breaker. His book is really interesting, Creativity Inc. If you guys want to read it, it's not super hard to get through. It's pretty short, but yeah, I thought it was very interesting. Turning Cog says it worked first try with the right OEM. I've been trying for hours earlier with the wrong manufacturer BIOS files. Oh god, dude, that is very scary. And then Adder says they didn't want anyone on the team to see us working on the initial PC port, and the shader updates was really strange, dude. Inside the studio, the PC port team was also a strike team, and they were separated from everyone else. They did their own thing in a vacuum. I know I was allowed to come in and check some things out because I knew people on the team, and they personally invited me to come to their play tests and see things because they knew I was very invested in the game and I made good stuff. So even in the studio, it was weird. And like, that shit's bad. It's not, it doesn't make the product better at the end of the day. They converted a meeting room to a PC port room and blacked out the windows. Yep. I will say, in Bungie's defense, past Bungie was very subject to leaks and like people sitting on rooftops with telephoto lenses trying to take pictures of people's desktops to see what they were working on so that they could like post some fucking clickbait article that generated a ton of money in traffic with zero context. It's very weird. So the paranoia was somewhat justified. But at the same time, it's really weird. Like, it's just fucking weird, and it hinders the development process. USB ports now fire when you plug shit into them. It fucking actually worked. Nice. I don't think I'd be excited about my USB ports lighting on fire.
I was just saying, I learned about this, like, this thing you can get now. It looks like a clamp, and it has these little metal contacts on the end, and it's designed to just, like, clamp onto the leads on these chips here, and one of these is like the BIOS chip, and you can just put it right onto there, and it touches all those leads in the right spot, and then you can run the flash through that instead of going through the USB ports on your motherboard. And I guess you can use, like, if you brick your motherboard or something, usually the USB ports stop working, so you can't flash it anymore, and then a lot of people are just kind of screwed at that point. This tool will allow you to just like force it onto that chip anyways, I guess. So that's a cool new thing that we have now.
Get it, Turning Cog. Get one. Start fucking around and find out, dude.
Yeah, it always sucks when you, like, I don't know, multiple times I've bought a new computer or a new motherboard or a new CPU, and then like you buy a new CPU, your motherboard doesn't support it without a BIOS flash, and then you spend like 3 days trying to figure out how to like get an old CPU into this motherboard so that you can run the flash on it and stuff. Sometimes I feel like this would be a lot simpler.
So speaking of Destiny, there's a Star Wars collab coming to Destiny.
Just pretend it doesn't exist.
I don't get it. Stop it. Just stop it. What are you doing? Why the fuck are they doing this?
We can watch this because I haven't seen it yet either. So hold on, let me get the sound going again.
They gotta make that cash. Dude, I don't think that's gonna work. Why? Money. Yes, exactly. Oh, man. This is making me want to crawl out of my skin.
Oh, I hate it so much. Oh my gosh.
This is making me want to crawl out of my skin. Oh, sorry guys, that was too loud.
Oh, I hate it so much.
Imagine if the flood is just Ewoks. Actually, I'd be down for that. I'd fucking smoke some Ewoks, dude. I'm not down with Yub Nub, man. That shit ain't me. I always thought Ewoks were fucked up and cringe, but I don't know. I'm a weird guy. I know people love Ewoks. I just don't love Ewoks. Zombie Ewoks?
Why is the flood in Destiny?
He was fucking it up. He was like, oh, wait,
I'm stuck on why is the flood in Destiny?
Ironic because Disney owns Star Wars and Sony and Disney have been beefing over Marvel. Yeah, dude. It's very weird, Adder. I want to think about what business people were like you know, circle jerking at the golf course over coffee or something, talking about this deal and being like, we're going to make a lot of money, brother. This is fucking so smart. I'm so glad you're on board. Oh, yeah, it's so great that you fucking give me this idea.
Destiny and Fortnite yet?
Yes. Zavala is in Fortnite.
Yeah, that's what I thought. That tracks.
Ewok subject to the
Learn
death
about
of the virus.
logic.
Nice, dude. That's a good one, artificial.
I mean,
Sky.
that's compelling at least.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
I think whatever justification you need for smoking Ewoks, if that is possible, I'm down. I'll definitely check that out just for a little bit because I loathe Ewoks. UEFN is doing a Walking Dead collab. Interesting.
I mean, maybe you could get some good zombie modes out of that potentially.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Very.
Do you do anything with UEFN turning cog? Still have like literally never opened it, and I don't know if I ever want to. But
surprised that hasn't happened yet, especially given that Fortnite started out as a zombie shooter. Nox was not fucking with the Star Wars shit either. Oh, I forgot about this. So I was talking with Artificial Sky last night. He was saying Diablo 4 now has a Berserk anime crossover that they're doing.
I thought he was just kidding.
Nope.
Oh my god.
Nope. It's fucking real.
That's interesting.
If you want to go look at the trailer, there's a trailer for that too. I didn't watch it myself. Actually, I might have the link.
Let's see what's up here. I got it.
Okay, cool. Do I look like a tryhard sweaty? I've never played Fortnite. Bro, Fortnite is not tryhard sweaty. That's crazy.
No, I was just asking if you ever tried UEFN.
Yeah, have you done any of like
Unreal things? But yeah.
Oh, here, I wanna hear what these demons are saying.
Here we go. I mean, that was cooler than Destiny Star Wars, at least.
I agree, but all I saw was marketing hype.
Oh yeah, and the schnoz.
The schnoz, man. That like, I don't. You guys probably saw me react to the schnoz, but I just fucking rolled my eyes as hard as possible.
Oh shit, we got BM in chat. Let's go.
Yo, what up, BM? Brightside, we watched the GTA trailer. I'm sorry you didn't get to see it with us, but we were at chat. Everyone agreed this is very like Brightside coded. We were like,
Omni called you BM earlier, so we're gonna call you BM now.
Yeah, sorry. I was like, Omni, maybe don't call him BM because that means some shit. Adder, I think beat off is tomorrow, brother.
Learning Cog says I opened UEFN to see how much of the engine they stripped down and locked down and then uninstalled. Spent a day poking around in it. Yeah, that once I understood that like the player character always has to be a Fortnite character, I lost interest. Well,
Brightside said he's the baby mama with the bunda.
there you go.
I believe it, dude. I believe it. You never show on stream, but I feel like you are caked the fuck up. Oh, don't worry about it, Artificial Sky. You said you gave me credit. You just forgot. Nah, I don't even know what you're talking about. It's all good, bro. Don't even trip. So okay. So my thoughts on the trailer were like, I don't know. I don't know, but GTA doesn't hit for me. So like, what was your take? I think it'd be cooler to talk to someone who was like excited. I'm assuming you're excited. I saw a clip of you talking about getting trying to buy an Xbox just so you could play it because it's console exclusive, right?
GTA?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they've said the PC version
PC's
isn't
gonna be
coming
there
out right
year.
away. Yeah, that's too bad. I don't know why they do that anymore, but I imagine it's to get people to buy it twice. If I want to be skeptical, so.
Oh, Jesus linked you the D4 stuff. Okay, no worries. I'm glad you got aligned to Jesus, man. You probably need more Jesus in your life. They got to space out the release for that money. Yes, they do. Nah, dude, you were right when you said Jesus. That's okay. Yeah, like what? You're a wooden plank. Why are you a wooden plank? No, I think you're an interesting human being, man. I value how unique you are as a person. I think it's very cool. I love the bright side vibes. They want people to buy it 3 times, release PC, port, new console in 2 years. Yeah.
If they do what they did with GTA 5, I basically ended up buying the game 3 times because I did buy it when it came out on PS3 because it was like the hot new thing and I wanted to play it. And then I bought a PS4 that came with it for free. And I sold it without opening it, but then my friends wanted to play it later, so I want to say I got it through PS Plus, and then ended up wanting to play it on PC and got it through like a free Epic Game Store thing. So I didn't give them money all those times, but I definitely like purchased that game like 4 or 5 times.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't even know. I don't know if I have it. I'm gonna look real quick because I think I bought the GTA collection and I may have never installed it. So I gotta see what Steam is telling me about my.
While he's looking that up, I just want to point out that this PCG example, I was trying to figure out like what the hell is going on here. They took the mesh for the control rig arrows. You can see control rig arrows is this like asset here, and if I like look at these meshes, it's like just a mesh of an arrow. Like if you ever use control rig, you'll recognize this for sure. But then they used it to like extrude tunnels. So I was trying to figure out if I could get rid of this so we could see it better, but you can totally see the shape of that arrow is like extruded along the spline. And then Vince, if you look too, I don't exactly know how they're doing this yet, but they're like flaring it out at one point along the spine, like we try to do. I've built a very similar system to this very manually in a blueprint, and this is making me think I might be able to process a little bit here for some of the stuff we're trying to do. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to look at this pack. Because we were talking a lot about track builders. That was the reason that I opened this one up first.
Turning cog, that's like default the way it looks. So Tony didn't do that.
Yeah, this is the PCG example for racing track specifically. And yeah, while we were talking, I was like, why does this look so weird? And it's because it's using control rig arrows. Like you can see this blocky one, I believe, is just like an arrow pointing down with like the flat part at the top. Yeah, totally.
Oh, interesting. I see what you mean. Yeah. Brightside says, I was thinking GTA 6 might be one of the best looking game trailers I've seen. The realism and face tracking look pretty impressive. Yeah, I agree with that. I think it's very pretty. Adder says they do got them lips. Yeah. It's interesting to see technology going in that direction. I mean, I don't know. It's tricky because like as a game designer, I just think that you don't need that shit. And you should focus on other stuff first. But I mean, GTA is probably going to be very successful, regardless of how good the game is. They've been building this IP for such a long time, and so yeah, it's cool that people are excited for it. I think that's neat. Yes, Adder, that's a really good point. We're hitting a ceiling on graphics, so tech team finally shifting to systems like mouth sync. Yep.
And like muscle simulation and stuff. Everybody was saying like you could tell there's full simulated muscular systems, which I know we've been doing for a while now, but they seem like they have it really dialed in, and the main character is kind of jacked, so you can like really see the definition in the movement as he swings his arm around and stuff.
True.
A lot of people were pointing out, you know, the bubbles in the beer bottles and the I saw one that was like, it seems like leaves and debris will collect up against buildings. I'm like, okay, you guys are reaching a little bit. Like they just put like some shit on the ground there to make it look real. Like it's not like gonna change seasons or something. But yeah,
VR graphics are really hard, Strava, because you have to render everything twice. So that's the biggest technical challenge. You need to make a VR headset really powerful while making it light. So there's literally physics is in the way.
GTA 5 came out in 2013 and it is still really hard to run in VR.
Yeah,
just because of it. It's, you know, it's an okay looking game. It's not like the nicest looking game ever, but there's just a lot going on. It's very dense. There's all the cars and the crowds and the city and all of that. Just you're always in a very dense environment, and that makes it very hard on VR.
Ooh, nice. I love hearing this. Epic dropping a lot of updates over 5.26 to 5.28 for VR perf. Yes,
yeah,
dude.
I'm really looking forward to the 5.6 version because apparently it has a lot of VR stuff and a lot of world partition stuff, and we're doing VR world partition right now. So
hell yeah.
Sunday 5.6 from source. How long does that take? Because I always hear people saying it takes like hours, and that's why I don't usually bother.
That's a good question. Let's see.
Back on. Took me an hour once I had space allocated. How much space did it take? 13th gen i9 in a 4080, about 2 hours. That's probably pretty close to what it would be for me. Okay.
Let's see. Yeah, balance is required. It's VR is the current gen of VR is really, really good. It's a huge jump from the first 2 gens or first 3 gens, right? But it's still not quite there yet.
Gameplay, no. You know, we always talk about how, like, I would argue almost all of the VR games that were initially built when VR was like new and people were getting really creative with it are way better than any of the games that come out now. I would love for somebody to prove me wrong. If you know a VR game that came out in the last 2 or 3 years that is innovative and isn't a first-person shooter or first-person like melee combat game, please tell me about it because I want to play it. I really do a lot of research and I just don't see too much out there that I think is even worth spending time on. Like I got this crazy little knockoff racket pinball game. I think that's one of the better VR games I've played in years, honestly, that kind of came out recently. So
yeah, Artificial Sky, the thing you're talking about with 250/90s, one for each eye, that's going to be like a 20-pound headset, and you don't want that. It needs to be as light as possible because fatigue is very real for VR. I also missed Knox's comment. I imagine that he's talking about Destiny. After spending 200 Canadian to get the base game and expansion, please buy our Diablo MTX skins. Oh, I got you. Okay, yeah. Either one. I mean, we were talking shit about a couple AAA games. So
the same for both of them. But yeah. I mean, Diablo was like $100 to get in the door. So
yep.
Yeah, I mean, we already did. I'm going back to what we were talking about, 250/90s, just wear the GPU on your belt. We did VR computer backpacks for a while, and that just didn't really take off because as soon as you hand somebody a Quest and go, you don't need any wires, this works wirelessly, it doesn't weigh that much, works pretty good, 90% of people go, I'm never gonna do anything else with this now. I'm not in that boat. I'm the 10% that I still don't like the Quest, and I'll go back to my Index every day, and you know, until I get a new inside out tracked headset, it's probably going to be that way. But I'm trying really hard not to buy a big screen Beyond because I know that the day I do, they'll come out with a Deckard. So
Ramblin says also, what's up, Ramblin? Good to see you, brother. Bandolier of 50/90s strapped to your chest. Yeah, I think that's the right way. You could be like some kind of cyberpunk future fucking metaverse, you know, whatever the shit type of guy. I think GPU streaming latency is the future. Yeah. I think if networks move off of copper to pure optical, you can get a lot more throughput and fidelity of data using like fiber. So if we all have like optical networks in our homes and that's just the way it works, I could see that being good, because you need a significant amount of throughput for that to work. And you would have to have like a base station in your house. I don't think you're going to be able to get that shit over the broader internet, because again, physics are still a problem. Like transfer speeds are not instantaneous, and you need like sub-millisecond times for GPU streaming type shit to be consistent and good. But yeah, I could see it going that way. I'm surprised that they didn't make the Steam Deck plugin to Steam VR as a default, like Snow Crash. I mean, it's just not there yet, Turning Cog. I think it's too risky, right? And I mean, Tony, you're making a good point. Steam Deck is a precursor to whatever the Deckard ends up being, for what it's worth. Yeah, I could see that. I could see Valve being like,
yeah, Valve is just trying to get like a portable gaming core thing, like really dialed in, and all of the ecosystem around it, and then I think they start adding things onto it. And I've always, felt like there's a pretty direct through line from what they're doing with the Steam Deck to whatever the Deckard will end up being. They're talking about this new Steam controller that kind of looks like a Steam Deck without the screen in the middle. I think you're just going to see a lot of that DNA end up kind of in whatever they do next, if they ever come out with it. But yeah.
I think you guys were talking about Full Dive. I mean, like, as much as people want to talk shit about tech billionaires and all that, that's literally the type of shit that Zuck is trying to make. So, like, we'll get there.
He's past VR. If you watch the recent interview he did with, I can't remember who it was, I'll have to look it up, but he talks about VR in a way that some people initially found concerning, because he kind of went like, VR isn't the solution to XYZ. We're not going to have Ready Player One. But then he kind of spins it back around and goes like, but there's like so many different ways to experience things, and VR is going to be right for some things, and it's not going to be right for everything. And some people are just like, everything will be VR someday, and I think we can all agree that that probably won't be the case. But
it'll be closer to Otherland, where there's like different tiers of virtual reality integration, all the way from like a direct neural interface where you're like fully immersed, like Full Dive, all the way back to mixed reality with glasses and some controllers that you've got. So,
or
like,
just like straight, like still, in Otherland, they still have computer screens, they still have iPad type things, they still have like wall displays where they don't have to put the headset on. And yeah.
I think we're gonna end up in a place where, and if you guys haven't read Otherland and you're into that kind of like sci-fi shit, Otherland is fucking amazing, and it was written in the late 90s. So
I got through part 1 of the first book on the plane yesterday.
Yes, dude. Yes, I love it. Who are you following right now? Rini and Gabu and
they just went to Mr. J's, and everything went wrong, and then it like abruptly ends and it goes to a different story. So that's like right where I'm at. So.
Dude, Mr. Jingo's smile is so fucked. Like
it got really dark there. I was like reading it on the plane. I was like, damn, this is like turning my stomach a little bit.
Yeah,
like,
man.
It is crazy. But yeah, no, it's a very cool story. And I like the fact that about halfway through now, every time they start telling you about something, you kind of go like, I don't know if this is actually what's happening, or if this is like a VR thing that somebody's in, and I'm going to find out here soon. But I'm enjoying it. Really cool book.
Nice, dude. I love to hear that. It's definitely like, I think the ramp into it is kind of a slower burn, kind of similar to Three Body without all the hard sci-fi. I think Tad Williams is a very readable author. He writes in a way that I
said that to Amy yesterday. She was like, how's the book going? Like, I was like, I can see that it's starting to get good, but I'm just starting to get there. So
I think his biggest issue is that he runs like 10 concurrent plot lines. And so you have to like, you'll be reading one, and then it kind of cliffhangers, and then it just completely new setting, new characters, and you're like, oh, what the fuck is going on now? But then you start to keep all these threads together, and you see them converge, and you're like, okay, I'm in, and I'm assuming that's kind of where you're at right now.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah, exactly, Strava. Artificial Sky wants Catgirls delivered into the metaverse. I mean, I think that's like already happening, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I was really definitely thinking about the fact that like VR chat is actually kind of close to what they're talking about in Otherland a little bit.
Absolutely.
You can go to different places. Like we're at a point where some people have, you know, these full motion tracking rigs with like $3,000 headsets and, you know, 10 lighthouses, and they got the haptic vest on and the gloves and all of that. And then you got people who got a Quest, and both of those people can hang out in the same space, and they're going to have a vastly different experience, but they can both be there.
Yeah, I could absolutely see that being like, you know, Snow Crash and Otherland both have this concept of like when you go to the internet, you're like in a virtual space. And I could see VR chat becoming kind of the analog for that. Also, Artificial Sky, how are you not fucking playing VR chat type shit? I think you would be really into it. Just knowing you as like a person. I think
You don't need VR to play VR chat. You can play VR chat like an FPS on your computer. You don't need a headset.
I think you should just check it out. And
You
like,
can totally pick your own avatar. You can be whoever you want. You can put your voice through a voice changer. Like nobody would ever know who you are.
I like that you went that angle for Artificial Sky. But yeah,
Well,
I
think that's the thing that's like really compelling to a lot of people is you know, you kind of get that Ready Player One experience to some extent.
Yeah.
There's just not any like legitimate spaces within it yet that I think is the difference. Like in Ready Player One or whatever, like you go to Walmart in VR, and Walmart actually did try that, but we're not quite there yet for real.
I do also think that since you mentioned Ready Player One, Snow Crash and Otherland are much more important books that do that right. And I think Ready Player One, Klein is like just biting all of that. He's like basically taking other people's ideas and leaning heavily on nostalgia.
I think the book does a good job of like,
yeah,
you know, exposing the ideas to people who probably haven't heard them before. But if you want like a much more serious take on it, and one that's probably a little more, you know, well made, then these other ones that he's talking about are definitely there. And this doesn't apply to the Ready Player One movie. That doesn't hold a candle to the book and doesn't really go over a lot of the really important things that the book does. So
yeah, and for what it's worth, like I'm talking up Snow Crash, but it's written in like first person perfect or some shit like that, which is really weird. So like Stevenson was trying to do this. I'm a avant-garde, you know, author, and I'm going to write something in a very strange way. So if you want to read more about this like VR stuff and you like these ideas, Otherland is definitely the strongest recommendation I can make. It's about 7,000 pages total. So it's Journey. It's a long series, but it's really, really good. What are these wiggly ass lines you got here, Tony?
this one, it was called Landscape, so I just wanted to see what it was, but it looks like it's doing some sort of like, you know, I don't even know, like contour lines of the landscape or something like that with a PCG volume. Presumably I could like move around. Let's see if we just like take it over there. I have to clean up and regenerate.
We got Hyperons live in chat. Yo, what's up? Thank you for coming back. Good to see you, homie.
I like your space, man. That's cool.
Turning Cog says, Bud, that's a thick ass book. It's 4 books, so like it's not actually like 7,000.
I thought it was more than 4, but okay, that makes sense.
I'm pretty sure it's 4. I've got them over here somewhere. Yeah, I'd have to go look but I think it's 4.
The Wheel of Time recently, and that is 16 books, many of which are like 700 to 800 pages each.
Yeah, that's crazy. That's like The Expanse. Yeah, Otherland is 4 volumes.
I mean, it's about 2 expanses for Wheel of Time.
That's
basically.
crazy.
Yeah.
I don't know
if you 9 books and 9 novellas, which I would say you could probably make the novellas into like maybe 1 more book in length.
Yeah.
So,
So yeah, Otherland is very good. Check it out. They tried to make an MMO at one point about Otherland, but it was like way before any of the technology was ready. It was basically DOA.
really?
But yeah, it's fucking weird. Because I think they tried to make it like not about the books, but like about the ideas that I was talking about. So they're like trying to make a metaverse Ready Player One type game. It's weird. I don't think it was good. It came out around the same time as like the Matrix MMO came out. Maybe never a full release. I don't even know.
let's see.
Otherland brings up a candle company. Do you want? I can post the link for you with Otherland, bro.
Otherland next. Does that sound right?
Yes.
This, yeah, 2015. It looks like.
The first book is called City of Golden Shadow. I'm gonna get you a link and I'm gonna drop that in Discord for you. Oh no, not wiki. All right.
This looks like the most generic MMO ever made. But
yes, it came out at a time when WoW was really big. I mean, WoW was still really big, but yeah, it's very weird. I dropped a link to the first book there for you too. Yeah, no worries, bro. You're welcome. Okay, Nox says, oh, that was an old message. I read SpongeBob, and that is not correct. He said spending. I'm cooked, boys. The brain is Dunskies. Yeah. So, anyway, Zuck is building the metaverse. I think Zuck, a lot of the things that he says sound to me like concepts from Snow Crash and Otherland. I would be shocked if he has not read those. Pretty sure he did read that shit. SpongeBob and spending are two very different things, Vince. Yeah, I mean, that's why I said my brain is cooked. I immediately read SpongeBob and I was like, why the fuck am I reading that? For what it's worth, chat, feel free to roast me. I fucking hate SpongeBob. It's not a show that I was ever into. I'm probably just too old for it. But yeah, SpongeBob doesn't do anything for me. I fucking dislike it. So when all the Zoomers be posting the SpongeBob memes, I'm like, I fucking hate this. I also wanted to say something about how like Zuck is explaining, you know, you were talking about how Zuck was talking about the metaverse and like his take on VR and mixed reality was a little different from what people expected. What I appreciate is that he's talking about the details that matter and helping convey these ideas, as opposed to like Elon talking about how the Earth is going to be gone at some point, so we should go to Mars. What he didn't mention was that he's talking about the sun in 5 billion years. We'd be lucky to be a species in 5 billion years. Billion years. I think it's 5, but either way, I mean, like that
doesn't matter. Yeah,
it's an absurd amount of time that like human brains can't really understand, and that it's a moot point anyway. Like when the sun becomes a red giant, it's going to destroy most habitable, or like what we would refer to as M class, you know, in the Goldilocks zone that would support life. Like the Jovians would possibly be the only habitable space, but the sun is going to be so much larger at that point that like maybe they won't be inhabitable. I don't know. It's just a fucking weird take, and it's a weird thing to say. So like Elon wasn't wrong. It's just not the reason why we go to Mars, because the sun is going to get too big. It's just fucking stupid. If you think about like 3-body problem, the reason to move off of the planet for species redundancy is valid, very important. I mean, it's not even a new concept either. Like, if you think about the Expanse, you know, they've colonized the asteroid belt and Mars as well, or colonized. So human beings are living in a bunch of different places, and there's a lot of species redundancy there. However, I think it's a multi-generational project. So even if we do see, you know, in my lifetime, I'm middle-aged now, but if we see in my lifetime people walking on the surface of Mars, that's very fucking cool to me. I don't think we're going to have sustainable colonies in my lifetime, especially ones that function without resources sent from our planet. You know, like Mars is like hundreds of years in the future. So none of us are ever going to see it, but it'd be really cool to see, like in Otherland, back in the 90s, Tad Williams wrote about the concept that there were drones and robots building a colony on Mars, which I think is probably what we're going to do first. And you could like watch the live feed, you know, it's like Twitch before Twitch existed. I'm just thinking about this now. There was like a live stream in the Otherland thing before live stream even existed. And you could just like tune into the feed and like watch the little robots like move boxes around and shit and like build walls and domes and stuff. I think that's very cool. Like we're gonna be there. I wonder how many generations it could take for people living on different planets to no longer be compatible with each other. that is also a highly compelling question, LFQ, because we don't fucking know. We just have like assumptions about what we think based on like Mendeleev's experiments with fucking bean plants to understand genetics. So like, or maybe that's Mendeleev. Mendeleev did the periodic table. I'm fucking up my, science history, but call me a Martian because I'm hard as fuck right now. Yes, Brightside. That's bars, bro. That's fucking bars, man. Yeah, Earthers are soft, and Martians are hard as fuck.
He said, do you think Earthers will be looked down upon but as a lesser class when we colonize Mars? And I said, that's how it is in the
100%.
Expanse. The Earthers are soft
100%.
and the Martians are hard as fuck, because in the Expanse, Earth has like 10 billion people on it, and there's not enough jobs to go around, so most people live on universal basic income and have to be sterilized by the government to be able to receive it. And you have to be like highly specialized to get a job anywhere. And then the people who live on Mars, everybody's in the military. You have, mandatory service, and they're just a very like, everybody's working to terraform the planet and like make Mars great. And they look down on Earth in a lot of ways because of just like how lazy they perceive everybody on Earth to be and stuff. If you haven't watched The Expanse, you guys should really watch The Expanse.
I love what Adder's saying. Compatible as in should, or as in like scientifically dangerous? Because humans will seemingly find a way if the internet is any indication. Yeah, there's gonna be like, people with like a Mars kink or some shit like that, or with like an Earther kink, and it'll be like, donkeys and horses where like they create like sterile offspring.
Well, and they have the Belters in The Expanse are like very physiologically different from the people who live on the planets, because they live in 0G, so they're like very tall and long, and they're kind of malnourished like inherently because they live in
weak bones,
asteroids, and they don't get the sun, and they eat like vat grown food, and all of their water is recycled, and they are constantly experiencing the Coriolis effect to make fake gravity. And it's interesting.
Oh, Turning Cog didn't like the politics in The Expanse. It was like Battlestar for him. That's interesting. I mean, like, I found that very intriguing. Like, I was compelled to learn more about it because I just, I like imagining like
you gotta get through the politics part to the alien part, and then it gets interesting.
Yeah, dude, there's very cool stuff in The Expanse.
Yeah.
You should watch, like, give the show another chance. I do think the show is the best sci-fi to come out in the last 20 years. It's so good.
The first season is a lot of like detective work and political intrigue and stuff like that, but I would argue a lot of that becomes less of the focus over time because there's a lot of other stuff going on too. But it's kind of like Game of Thrones, where it's about like politics and this, everybody's kind of being threatened by the same thing, but they all hate each other and trying to kill each other anyway. And I don't know.
Yes, Adder. The Expanse. Yes, it's very good. It was on Sci-Fi for like, what was it, 2 seasons, Tony? Yeah,
I believe so. Yeah, 2 or 3, and then the last one is Jeff Bezos liked it enough that he personally purchased it from Sci-Fi and had Amazon finish it up through the 6th book, or through the 5th book. No, through the 6th book, and then 7, 8, 9 were never made in the TV show.
Yeah, it ends. The TV show ends not great because they ran out of budget and they had a scandal with one of the main actors, and like it was already not a successful show because people weren't into sci-fi at the time.
Yeah,
but it's so fucking good. It's really, really good.
Omni, since you learned how to read, go read The Expanse now. Like the last 3 books are worth reading through the first 6 because they're so fucking good. Oh my god, it gets so good. So
really big ideas, very adjacent to 3 Body.
We told you to read 3 Body. I'm telling you with just as much energy that you need to read The Expanse next. So
LFQ, it's not homework. It's good for you.
It's very good for you. You want to read like a really cool sci-fi book that'll kind of change your perception of some things, read 3 Body and The Expanse. And
yes, Turning Cog, you are right. The Sci-Fi Channel ruined people's interest in science fiction.
That's probably true. Yeah,
very true. Yeah, Omni, that's tongue in cheek. But I'm glad you learned how to read, Omni. I am very much. Adder's still learning how to read. That's awesome, bro. I got book recommendations. I know how to help people get into it. Hyperon's Live is riding a rocket to space. Amazing. Children of Time. What's Children of Time? Yeah, what the fuck are you talking about, bro? Both Tony and I are Googling furiously.
Tchaikovsky novel.
Okay. If we're talking about Russian literature, that's hard, man. Like, Russian doesn't translate to English really well, and I've been told by many people who've read, the adaptations and people who've read the original Russian that it's not the fucking same, and they're actually bad in English. So that's like Dostoevsky and Tchaikovsky. I don't know, man. Maybe I'm fucking things up. You're making a sci-fi game? Hyperons, are you in our Discord? Because you can definitely drop a link. We ask that people only share their thing once. Sometimes we've had a couple people share their stuff and then they share it over and over again. That's a little too much, but you're totally cool just sharing your one thing. We love talking about and celebrating what other people are creating too.
But so why do you hate this? The premise actually sounds pretty interesting.
Yeah, Omni, continue. We want to know. You hate?
Oh yeah, I mean the fact that it's spiders definitely makes me uncomfortable because I really don't like bugs either. But again, the premise sounds pretty interesting, and if I'm not having to look at them, I can usually read about them. Okay.
Omni, what are you reading right now? I can't remember. You're reading Wheel of Time or some Harry Potter type shit or something? Spiders are not bugs, correct, Turning Cog. They're arachnids.
It goes too far into spider culture. Okay, yeah. I don't know about spider culture.
It's very
Rick culture. This is considered a dick move.
Yep. Children of Time right now, but 81%. Bro, stick to our recommendations. I know you want to do your own thing, but I promise you I've read enough books to tell you if something's bad and whether or not you should read it, and something that will actually give you value and I can recommend across many genres. So I understand your desire to do your own Omni thing, but just trust me on this. Yes, read Old Man's War first. You started the wrong book on your Kindle. Yeah, I think Old Man's War would be a nice palate cleanser because it's very easy to read. You don't need to read them all. You're probably fine reading the first one if you find that interesting. Ask me about it because there are some novellas or I guess they're not even novellas, right? There are some novellas, but there's weird shit, like book 3 or book 4. So book 4 is book 3 written from a different character's perspective, literally all the same plot points, and it's stupid because book 4 is written from the perspective of a teenage girl instead of the main fucking character. It's very weird.
I read that book. It didn't explode my brain like a lot of the other ones that we talked about. So, but it was pretty easy read and not terrible. The writing is just very
pulpy,
young adult novel style. Yeah. If you were 13 and you read that book, it would probably hit for sure. But
yeah, it's fun. Yeah. It's not a bad time. Very easy to read and get through quickly. Nothing super high concept or deep, but some really interesting sci-fi stuff. I would say kind of James Cameron's Avatar, Starship Troopers, stuff like that. That is pretty neat if you're into those kinds of ideas.
Old Man's War did remind me of Starship Troopers in a big way, for sure.
Yeah.
It's kind of the same story with a little less direct political commentary. But
I like that you like the book segment, man. I like books a lot. Stories matter, That's the shit that I do. So yeah, I'm glad you appreciate it too. We're coming up on time here. We've run a little over. Do you have anything else you want to go over?
Not really. Like we said, we're either gonna play Expedition 33 tomorrow, or we might actually just wildcard it and play Metal Gear Solid 5 or something. So definitely come through. We'll try to, keep the game design discussion at the forefront and make it interesting for you guys. We're trying to find something good to talk about as opposed to just playing the blueprints or something. So please come through if you guys ever have any ideas or you want to see anything or hear about anything. Always let us know in Discord.
Also, just to make it crystally clear for you guys, Claire Obscure Expedition 33. I was very confused because some people were calling it Expedition 33. Some people were calling it Claire Obscure. It's a fucking weird French title.
I feel like the Claire Obscure part needs to be said with like a heavy French accent that I can't do justice to. So I feel like the American version is just say Expedition 33.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, supposedly very, very interesting and cool game. Indie game that we want to talk about a lot because, you know, we do the indie thing. So,
and that was made in UE5 with a lot of assets that you guys probably have in your collection if you get a lot of the free ones from the marketplace. So,
okay, wait. Johnny Mnemonic is a good palate cleanser, very short and punchy. Book, I didn't even realize because the movie is fucking unhinged. I really liked it, but it was unhinged.
Interesting. I didn't realize there was a book.
Okay.
Either.
I'll definitely want to check that out now because Johnny Mnemonic did very cool stuff. Cool. Well, I think that's going to be it for us today. 50 Shades of Grove, Fractal Grove Book Club. Yeah, fuck yeah, guys.
There you go. I like that.
Post fucking book stuff in the Discord. Like, I love the conversations. We've got a bunch of community members who love reading too. So, yeah, conversation's great. Book is more unhinged and fleshes out some of those ideas better. Yes, dude. All right, I'm into it. I'm fucking into it. I'll have to check it out. Cool. I think that's it for us today.
Everybody have a good one.
Yeah, everyone have a good one. Please come through tomorrow. We're going to be live from 2 to 4 Mountain Time. So it's, you know, a completely different time slot from today. But appreciate y'all.
We'll do that when we get off Omni. Don't worry.
Yeah, and Hyperons, thank you for joining Discord. If you want to post your stuff in the self-promo, I think you already did. Fantastic. Love to check it out. We'll asynchronously respond to that. So love you guys. We will see you tomorrow. Thank you so much for the support. Thank you, everybody. Yeah.
I'm going to make sure there's nobody to raid real quick. Hold on.
Async responses. Yes, dude.
Nope. Okay. See you guys later.
See you guys tomorrow.